Take an electron. Quantum mechanics should apply to the entire universe, but it becomes unmistakable when you look at little tiny things, right? So we always are talking about electrons or atoms and so forth. An electron has a position and, well, sorry, let me not even say that. Even that was wrong. It's just so hard to correctly talk about quantum mechanics, right? If you were Isaac Newton, before there was quantum mechanics, there was classical mechanics. And basically, quantum mechanics and classical mechanics are the only two big frameworks that have ever existed in physics. You know, classical mechanics was so good that everyone thought that was just right, and it was all a matter of filling the details until quantum mechanics came along and changed things. In classical mechanics, an electron is a point. It has a position, a location in space, and it has a velocity. It's moving somewhere. And from that, you can predict what's going to happen. Okay? Quantum mechanics says, no. The electron has a wave function. So if there's a wave, you know, sometimes you hear this debate about are things like electrons and photons particles or waves. The answer is that they are waves.
He was a mathematician who incorporated his calculations into the core of his art. He was a musician who played and taught instruments, even designing several of his own. He was a theatre producer who created immersive sets and props that blew away audiences. He was a scientist who theorized, tested, and discovered many new groundbreaking ideas. He was an inventor, pushing the boundaries of what was technologically possible at the time. And he did all of this over 500 years ago. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the marvelous life of Leonardo da Vinci, exploring his amazing creations and ideas, and asking the question, how did Leonardo da Vinci change the world?
I live in sort of about 800 kilometers east of Moscow, and so obviously what's going on in the world in the bigger sort of frame has an effect, a different sort of effect here than it does where you are. But I'll get to that, unless you live in Russia. I'll get to that a bit later on. I went to Chechnya for about 6 days, and I've been there before, and I went to have a look to see if there was still a community anywhere, somewhere with real believers that wasn't completely destroyed by modernity and so on. And I've liked nearly all of the Chechens that I've met, and just in life in general. And they're people that, I mean, like anywhere, there's a caste system, there's a class system, there's, you know, there are distinct.
For example, a woman found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year when there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility, and her friends were sorry for her and said, "Isn't it too bad you'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel?" She replied, "You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm a Superman, and I'll get an apartment." She spoke the words, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for the right apartment." She knew there was a supply for every demand, and that she was unconditioned working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. She had contemplated buying new blankets when the tempter, the adverse thought or reasoning mind, suggested, "Don't buy the blankets. Perhaps after all you won't get an apartment and you will have no use for them." She promptly replied to herself, "I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets." So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she
We're going to be doing a fast-paced, detailed summary of the book and dive deep into topics like habit loops, dopamine spikes, priming your environment, plus heaps more. And make sure you stick around until the end of the video where I go through step-by-step how I'm personally using this book to improve my own habits. I hope this summary inspires you to go out and grab a copy of the book for yourself, because this book deserves a space on everyone's bookshelf. Let's jump into it. Imagine a plane taking off and traveling from New York to Los Angeles. Just before takeoff, you adjust the plane just slightly by 3 degrees or around 80 inches. If you were to keep flying in a straight line, you would end up closer to Tijuana in Mexico than in your intended destination of Los Angeles. And the same goes for our habits. Tiny changes in our habits can change the trajectory of our lives in ways that we can't even notice until many years into the future looking back, in both good ways and bad. You are your habits. The power of atomic habits.